What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the other side of the Firewall podcast, where we talk the latest and greatest cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. My name is Ryan Williams, and as always, I'm joined by Shannon Times.
What's up? What's up?
What's going on? And Chris Abercon.
What's going on, everybody?
What is going on? So definitely continue to tune in throughout the weeks, Monday, Tuesday topics, Wednesday discussion, Thursdays Ask Us SP. That's where I sit down with someone and have a interview about what they do in the cybersecurity community, as well as their origin story and things of that nature. Last week, I had a really good one with Alan Wesley, so definitely tune in for that one, where we talk about generative AI and data management. And then this week I have another one, but just tune into all of them, right? I have a really good one with Darren King, talking about CMMC 2.0. I have another one with Jeff Lodick, talking about his journey. So we've been blessed over the past couple of months. That's really good interviewees on the show. So I hope to continue that throughout 2024. But without further ado, I'll give it to Shannon.
All right, everybody. So this article is from federalnewsnetwork.com, written by Justin Doubleday, and it's CISA directs agencies to shut down vulnerable software products, right? So they had it come up recently. There was a supplemental directive that was released from CISA, and it tells agencies to disconnect all instances of Ivanti Connect Secure and Ivanti Policy Secure VPN products on the networks, right? And they only gave them a few days to make it happen, gave them a couple days, because there was a January 19th emergency directive from CISA telling them to remediate the vulnerabilities in those products, right? So what ended up happening was they found some major vulnerabilities in those products that exposed some threats to the greatest degree possible, they say, right? So this is privileged level access that you can get into it, right? And when you have privileged level access, that's one of those things where you have the keys to the kingdom, right? Like you can run in and do some things. Now, they say that not a lot of departments were affected by this, right? So with not a lot of departments being affected, like it seems like it was minimal, but it's one of those things where they're still collecting information on this, right? So agencies are required to report back to CISA come February 5th, right? So again, a little bit behind the scenes, we're recording a day before that, right? So by the time that you see this, the reporting deadline will have come and gone, right? But here's the thing with this. So we have it to where we rely on outside products all the time, right? When it comes to different departments in the United States government, the DoD, and this is what comes with it, right? So the fact that they found it is a good thing, right? But how much damage was done before it was actually discovered, right? But there are some things that are homegrown, right? Like there are tools that are made in-house that some of these agencies use, but this is what you run into when you start using outside tools, right? And this is kind of the nature of the beast, because you can't rely on the federal government to fund the creation of different products and things like that. But the hope is that you catch it like we did here, right? And hopefully we caught it in a good amount of time, right? Or it wasn't exposed. Let me say that it wasn't as exposed based off the vulnerabilities that they caught, but they said that hackers had developed workarounds for current mitigations and detection methods and been able to exploit weaknesses, move laterally, and escalate privileges without detection, right? So they know that something has gone down, but they were very quick to say, all right, you got a couple days, here's the remediation, here's what needs to be done, right? So CISA's on top of it. They're trying to make it to where we're all safe, you know what I mean? With all the and they don't specify which agencies were using it, right? Which agencies or departments were using it, which is a good thing, right? Because then it's a matter of hackers being like, all right, we know who to target now because we know who may have been using it. But yeah, this is the world we live in, right? Like you try to mitigate risk as much as possible. And they were doing the right thing, right? This is them using a VPN, right? Which kind of helps when it comes to navigating certain things and certain things that some of these departments may have been doing, right? Whether they were 3-letter departments, DoD, whatever it may have been. They could have been out there doing some of this stuff based off, some of the articles we've already reported, right? Like them being on the offensive. So maybe they were using Ivanti VPN, to go in there and do certain things. And there's a vulnerability in there that needs to be taken care of. So this is the good and the bad, right? Like it's good that those tools are out there, but it's bad that you have situations like this to where now it's kind of a setback for a tool that's being used through the government. You know what I mean? But again, you win some, you lose some. You just hope you win more than you lose, right? That's just kind of how it goes. But Chris, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I really, when it comes down to utilizing software as third party, stuff like that, really it's the fact that they self-reported this vulnerability and then that they're taking steps to really secure this vulnerability, notifying their customers really shows me that there's a intense level of care that's being taken to ensure that their customers are taken care of, right? As to being ordered to shut down or usage of such VPNs and things like that, that just comes with the business, right? Like no software that you use is always going to be secure at all times, right? Even the biggest companies out there, Microsoft, Apple, they have vulnerabilities as well. So it just goes to show you that what's important is it's better to know that something is vulnerable and to be able to remediate it rather than, hey, the company's going to hide it, right? Because then they can get into a lot of trouble with federal agencies. Not on the client side, but I'm talking um, judicial side, right? They can get in a lot of they can levy a lot of fines. But more to the point of third party software, really, I think what we can do, right? Like this is one of those situations that, hey, you picked a product, agencies that picked a product, they've already used it, they're kind of stuck with it. Somebody might say, hey, look, just implement Cisco VPN, right? It's not that simple. It's not as simple as, hey, you've got that tens of thousands of potential laptops, remote devices that have this stuff installed. Hey, what does that usually mean? Oh, got to come back to the office, guys. Probably sucks for a lot of those guys. Got to come back in. But that's what we have to do to protect our data. Um, Kind of back on my train of thought regarding installing different software. It's not that easy to switch software, right? A lot of the times it's when you've got current capability to switch or pivot to something else is just a huge undertaking. And honestly, it's anybody here that's ever been through, installs of any capacity, whether it's, a simple upgrade, but you're talking an enterprise wide sweeping change. So it's not as easy as simply, you know, installing new software. But Ivanti is a huge company, right? They've got various products, right? And I'm sure they've got a very capable, development team that's working hard to ensure that the software is safe for really all users. Because if there's vulnerabilities in one software, chances are there's probably vulnerabilities that other companies that haven't seen it just yet as well, right? There's these you can crosswalk some of this stuff throughout the industry and say, hey, oh look, there are ways that adversaries are getting into our products. They're getting into the secure environment. I mean, it's just the nature of the beast, right? Like, I mean, as Shannon said, it's you win some, you lose some. But in this case, I think it's more of a win because it's a positive, it's a proactive approach, and I definitely commend CISA for taking this action.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I think you brought up 2 points that I would like to dive into. So speaking of which, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. I always forget to say. Um, Shrink wrap code, right? Being one of them. So like, yeah, a lot of software shares a lot of the same DNA because why reinvent the wheel when you could just purchase or source code that works in this instance. So not saying that's the issue here, but the other part being CISA's uh, work in this area when it comes to supply chain attacks and things of that nature. They really stepped it up. And I really appreciate that as opposed to having another sunburst where it takes weeks or months to finally turn the ship, turn off the bad application and then patch and service. It's more of we're being more proactive. Like, yeah, this thing's out in the wild and how it was discovered, who's to say? I do like Shannon did set off some alarms where sometimes it could be offensive. It could be that we are using this capability on other nations or other bad actors. And then we're like, by the way, also patch this. Like, we found the keys to the kingdom and we have some of these devices within our own environment, right? So go ahead and patch those and we're going to continue to use and abuse them elsewhere in the world, which I think is pretty cool. But in this case, who's to say? But a lot is being done on supply chain attacks and just controlling the supply chain in general, right? So that reminds me of me and Chris were in Huntsville. We talked to a gentleman and it was a very cool product where they were able to dive pretty deep into products, right? Like he was able to show us where it's from cradle to grave. Like here are all the devices that are out there. Here's all the open source intelligence on those devices. Here are where the manufacturers are, right? Because a router or a switch might have several different components from several different factories all over the world. And then all the way down to here's where the materials are being mined. I was like, that is mind blowing, right? It was just a spider web of information. So we can tell if something happens, right? There is a, let's say, uh, uh, civil unrest in the area. Like you may not be able to source these devices because it's being shut down all the way at the mine to, hey, you might not want this product because a specific component comes from China or some other near peer adversary, and we don't necessarily want that to be within our devices. And it was an entire, like, here's open source intelligence. Like there are people who actually are sitting there doing the research down to here is, you know, the cradle of this product. Like the raw materials are being mined from a Chinese mine somewhere. So I was like, that's really cool. I can't remember who was it. Was it Boeing?
No, it was Deloitte actually.
It was
It
Deloitte.
was
Okay, yeah,
yeah, it was Deloitte.
Deloitte had
Yeah.
yeah.
So I remember specifically. I remember one instance they were like, okay, you've got a computer, right? And then they look at the source of the silicon and the mining source, right?
Yeah,
They can get to the granular level of like which mine it came from in Africa or something. My mind was blown
yeah. I
at
was
the
like,
level of
that is really
detail,
cool. Yeah, the
right?
guy we were
And
talking to was Air Force, right? At one point, there were
the
a
Air
lot
Force,
of prior
yeah,
service.
prior, yeah,
Yeah, as we walked around the different booths, it was at the Huntsville.
National Cyber Summit.
Yep, yep. So I was like, that is really cool. So it's good to see that that's happening. So I'm sure CISA has products or intelligence to you know, that either compare or rival, or they may be working with companies like Deloitte to make it happen. But it's just good to see that that type of due diligence is being had now, because like when the sunburst thing happened, like I was a blue suitor and it wasn't necessarily my department, but I knew about it and I brought it up and they're just like, well, we can't pull the plug until higher says to pull the plug. And you're like, but we know that this is an issue, but obviously the DoD is a big ship, it's hard to turn. But now you have instances like here with CISA, it's just like you have 3 days. Push it through, right? You need agencies like that can quickly flip the button because yeah, like a lot of us may have the information, but we're not in charge, or I'm not a CEO of uh, you know, my company necessarily. To CISA and for having such quick intel and having the authority to tell people like, no, shut it down. Cut the hard line, right? To X. So all good stuff. So definitely continue to tune in throughout the weeks. Monday, Tuesday are topics, Wednesday discussion, just like this one. Thursdays, Ask SSP. I have a really good one coming up. And then Fridays, everything else. So movies, books, games, all that good stuff. So continue to tune in. Here's all about the websites that go by our name. You can be a person at RY Security Guy. That's RY Security Guy. You can find me on LinkedIn, Clubhouse, Twitter, and Threads. And you, Chris?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Chris Avicon. Last name is spelled A Bacon.
There it is. Stay safe, stay secure.